This graph shows every player's T-side opening kill stats from 2015 through to 2020. The left axis shows how successful a player is in opening fights, while the bottom axis shows how often they attempt to get the opening kill. Every single one of these dots displays an entire year of a player's career, with the players at the top of the graph having the highest success rate and the players at the furthest right of the graph being the most aggressive. And you can see there are a few outliers, but mostly everyone fits into roughly the same area. Everyone except the one man I haven't shown on this graph so far. Brace yourselves. And there he is. That's aRT, the most aggressive player in CSGO history, and no one comes close. Oi oi, it's your boy Hawker, and I'm back with an in-depth look at aRT. His level of aggression, his level of attempting to get the entry is unprecedented throughout CSGO history, and I want to give some context here. Let's look at some of the other players and where they rank on this graph. So this is Apex's most aggressive year from 2016. He only attempted the entry 28% of the time. Then you've got guys like Config in 2018, who was also known as a very aggressive player. Nico from 2016 ranks here, back when he was on Mousesports and was basically a one-man army on that team. And then Stewie2K, when he was the smoke criminal, when he was first coming onto the scene and doing crazy things, ranks in these two spots. And then the second most aggressive year in CSGO history, the man that can get closest to aRT is aRT himself from 2019. And not only have these numbers literally never been seen before in CSGO history, but they're also leading aRT's team to success. You take a look at the T-side win percentage for every team right now, Furia are number 1. So clearly there's something worth looking into here. I think one of the best ways to show you just how aggressive aRT's T-side playstyle is just to go through one of his halves and show you guys most of the rounds to get an idea of how constant his aggression is. So here on the pistol round, he lines up a Molotov for top hut, one of his teammates smokes out and they try and drop down the vents. I personally really like this sort of call on pistol rounds because the way the CTs normally try and counter this is with either some counter utility or just with some spam through the smoke, and that's not possible in the pistol round. So Furia get down the vents pretty easily, and aRT may not have got aggressive at the start of this round, but you can bet your ass he's going to get aggressive at the end of it. He's still got this smoke for the right side of ramp, and then he just pushes towards the left side, cutting off EG in this choke point and landing some pretty spectacular shots to help his team. I'm going to go ahead and save you some time and skip ahead to the first gun round here in round 19, where Furia put some early utility out through the door, they nade it open, they put the molly down, and then even though EG try and use their counter nades to stop this door play, aRT just decides to smoke the Molotov and get his team down the vents very quickly. And I'm sure EG would have been aware of this play heading into this game, but they're still unable to counter it. Furia get down towards B safely, and something you're going to notice about aRT is that he's almost always moving. He's almost always trying to get into awkward positions, and he does that in this round. aRT gets a couple of kills behind him, but he's able to sneak up on Cirque, who's not ready for aRT to be pushed so far up, and that's another easy round for Furia. Into round 20, aRT has the furthest forward spawn on his team, and you know what that means. aRT's about to glue down his W key. He goes for a pretty similar play through door and down squeaky, and even though EG try to switch things up by putting Cirque's AWP into this position, aRT's just too fast for him. He gets down vents without taking too much damage. This time round though, aRT doesn't have the rest of his teammates follow him down vents. Instead, they all decide to go back towards ramp to group up for this B play. Because aRT's already down towards this B site, taric rotates away from ramp early to try and cover this off, and the rest of Furia are able to take ramp room for free. And then instead of just running distraction, aRT decides to run over and help his team ganging up on taric, and see ya taric, that's an unreal shot. And from here, Furia have the B site with plenty of nades left in a 5v4. This is another position where one kill has won them the round. Furia finally go for something a bit more standard in round 21 with some outside smokes to begin with, but while the rest of Furia go down secret, aRT's got other ideas as he sneaks out on the back of this final smoke, and EG are unable to stop him. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some counter-stratting that goes into this, because some teams will definitely have a player watching the smoke, sometimes an AWP at heaven will look for a gap, But here it works out really well for aRT, and instead of going into mini where he spots Stanislaw, he decides to slowly but surely lurk his way through into hell and into heaven. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier, where aRT's always staying active, he's always trying to get himself into these unexpected positions. And this almost ends up being an aggressive lurk in this round, where he's able to flank onto A, realize that the A site is clear, and finally he drops down to get the one kill that allow his teammates to get up through the vents safely onto the bomb site in a great position. And it's another great read from Furia, and especially from aRT. I guess technically that last round counts as a slower round by aRT standards, so he decides to go straight back to his aggression here in the next one. aRT goes for a fast mini drop in this round, which is a pretty common play amongst the pro scene, but it's just the wealth and depth of aRT's aggressive plays that makes him really hard to predict and really hard to counter. And that's why I decided to show a full half, because we're not even halfway through the half and he's already done a lot of different plays. It works out nicely for him here as he wins this first fight, and then somehow Cirque comes up the vents and gets a couple of kills with this AWP. I don't know how the hell this happens, but after all these trades go back and forth, aRT ends up in a 2v1. And as I've alluded to earlier, aRT always likes staying active. He always likes getting in those really annoying and awkward positions for his opponents to deal with, so he decides to go for this heaven flank. He doesn't end up getting the kill out of it, but he does a bit of damage, and he gets the information for his teammate who ends up clutching out the round. Into round 23, Furia go back for some early yard aggression, and after aRT hears this AWP shot, he knows for a fact that Cirque is preoccupied, so he can dive through this smoke and get up close towards Mini. And it's just another round where aRT gets into a really annoying position to deal with. He's able to sneak in towards the A site and open things up. Unfortunately though, he's not ready for Breezy, who ends up catching him while dropping down from heaven, and because this was more of an on-the-fly call, his teammates weren't ready to follow him up, so Furia don't go on to win this one. Something we haven't seen on display so far is aRT's AWPing, which comes into play here in round 24. He gets boosted up over at yard to try and take an AWP fight mano a mano, but Cirque's not there to meet him, so he decides to look for a different pick as he doubles back towards door. EG aren't really biting though, they're not really giving aRT any opportunities to find an open and kill here. They even put this smoke down to try and deny him, but aRT isn't about to be stopped by a puny smoke. He peeks behind it, gets this first kill, and gets a second kill onto the A-bomb site, and this is just absurd. This is the kind of play that I envision myself making in MM before I end up just missing the first shot and dying like a noob and having my teammates tilt at me. But as always with aRT, there is some method to the madness. You can see that there's obviously this gap behind this smoke that Stanislaw puts down, and because aRT's been holding here for so long, he knows there's probably not anyone behind those back vents, there's probably not anyone mini, so he decides he's safe to try and emerge behind this smoke and just take an aim fight, and turns out he's right, and he wins him. I've got to put this disclaimer out here though. If you're in my matchmaking game and you're on my team, please don't try this at home because you'll probably screw it up. Into round 25, we see the same boost at the start of the round for aRT, but Yuri's flashbang blinds Cirque. You hear this AWP shot rattle off, and that gives aRT complete confidence. He can peek out wider because he knows that Cirque's just fired, and he ends up getting this easy pick. Great start to the round from aRT as he takes out the opposing team's AWPer, but I think because he got the kill onto the opponent's AWP, he assumes that EG don't have a sniper in this round, so he goes for a dry peek over at yard thinking he has the range advantage, but he's not ready for Tarek's secondary AWP, who just holds a pretty easy angle, and Tarek gets a pretty easy kill. But you can see what aRT was thinking here. Into round 26, aRT goes back to that mini drop that was successful for him previously, but this time Stanislaw's a bit sharper with his aim. He gets a double dink onto aRT and ends up following up for the double kill. And whenever you make a play like this and lose both fights, you've basically put your team in an unwinnable position in the 3v5. Into the next one, Furia go back for some squeaky aggression, but they switch it up slightly this time. Instead of mollying out Mini, they decide to try and double nade Stanislaw, but these nades really don't land, they do basically no damage, and they allow Stanislaw to stand strong and spray into this door, which is such a tight choke point. aRT's always going to be taking damage here, and eventually he gets spammed through the smoke. Up until this point, aRT's plays have been going pretty much perfectly, but you're starting to see some of the pitfalls of his playstyle. The thing with aRT though is that there's always a plan behind his aggression, so even though he knows he's going to look silly dying like that sometimes, he's playing the percentages, and he clearly thinks that these aggressive plays are going to work more often than not, and so far they have. This round is one of the rare examples where aRT isn't the initial man in on this early ramp aggression, but as they get down towards the B site, they're able to smoke things out, Furia stick as a pack to get this bomb down, and then this man does something I think no other pro player would do. He opens up this door, even though EG are pretty close by and can probably hear him, and he just pops out and ends up killing Stanislaw. I assume that aRT makes this play because he thinks EG either can't hear the door open over all the shooting, or just that they're going to be so cluttered and flustered with their comms that they're just going to lose track of it. But it works out for him because you see that Cirque ends up going away from Stanislaw here, so it ends up being a fair 1v1 fight that aRT wins. Unfortunately though, they don't go on to win this round as EG pull off a pretty remarkable retake. As we're getting into crunch time, as we're going down to the wire, aRT goes back to his trusty AWP for a pick towards door, and Cirque just sits him down with a nice shot. Considering Furia have a weaker buy here though, I don't mind this play from aRT. You've got to do something to try and win the round. Into the final round of regulation, aRT orders his troops to throw some smokes towards Yard and go for the early secret play. aRT's got something else in mind though, as he decides to sneak out past the back of this final smoke. And this goes back to those previous rounds I was talking about, where EG generally don't have anyone watching the backside of these Yard smokes. So as soon as he hears Stanislaw reloading in mini, he knows he's probably safe to pop out, and he ends up getting a free kill onto Stanislaw because of it. It's also important to point out that a big part of the reason why this play worked is because Cirque begins to rotate away from Yard down towards the B site as soon as the Furia players get down secret. aRT's not done there though, he stays active, he pushes in towards mini, gets a second kill for his team and leads them to victory as they take it over the line 16-14. Seeing this entire T-side half should have helped illustrate just how aggressively aRT plays, but also that aRT doesn't just go for any old aggression, he goes for well-planned, well-executed aggressive plays, and he goes for a lot of different aggressive plays so he can't be read. This goes back to an interview aRT gave all the way back in June of 2019, where he said, "Everyone thinks that our style will be easy to read, but there are infinite possibilities of making aggressive plays." To bring things full circle, the definition of aRT is the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination. And to me, under that definition, aRT and Furia are artists. They're expressing themselves through playing Counter-Strike. And that's what's so great about it. There's no proper way to play CS. There are so many different CS teams who have their own thoughts and values of how to play the game. There are so many CS teams who have a range of distinct and diverse styles, and they can all find success. And aRT has found a group of guys who have bought into his system, who have let him unapologetically be himself and play the way he wants to play. And that's what makes CS so encapsulating, so beautiful, and it's what keeps us coming back. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you next time.